Female Fighter of the Year.
All right, we're talking Female Fighter of the Year, and there's so many different deserving candidates. Honorable mention goes to Bo Meng, huge first-round win in her one and only fight in 2020, and that's where it's kind of discounted or taking her out of the running. But our top 5 fighters here, Jessica Andrade, kind of an odd year, right? I mean, it didn't really work out for her at 115. She moves up to 125, and it's like a hot knife through butter. Jessica Andrade, definitely deserving to be on this list. Lucky Lauren Murphy. You talk about a career resurgence, and I know there's a lot of different lists out there, and we're going to talk about a couple of different fighters. Lauren Murphy really kicked off this win streak in 2019. 2020, definitely her year. You look at Mackenzie Dern. You talk about somebody coming back and putting on very impressive performances. Mackenzie Dern's stock has gone through the roof in 2020. Carla Esparza, former champ. We always talked about it, Carla Esparza, adding a wrinkle here to her game, adding a wrinkle there to her game, really building herself back up. 2020, definitely a statement for her. And for Xiaonan, holy smokes. I mean, wouldn't it be something if we had Zhang Weili taking on Xiaonan in an all-China women's strawweight title fight? That would be absolutely amazing. Matt, I'm going to throw it over to you. Your bow tie's a little off center. You're the nod king of Fight Night picks from the comments section. Matt, who really sticks out to you out of this list of 5?
Okay, so it is kind of interesting too, because like you had said, one of the people nominated in Jessica Andrade has a loss this year, but you kind of have to look at the loss itself. Did she just get beat by Rose Namajunas? No, that fight itself is nominated for Fight of the Year. You can't have a Fight of the Year without it being a competitive fight. So she's involved in one of the best fights of the year, and then she moves up in weight. And listen, Caitlyn Chukagian, former title challenger, maybe not the best fighter to ever fight for a title, but to go out there and knock her out with a body shot in the first round to become the number 1 contender in your first fight in the division, extremely impressive. Lauren Murphy is a fighter who I have had a strange relationship with. I wasn't all that high on her at first coming off the Ultimate Fighter. It just seemed like she was always begging for something that she had yet to deserve. And then this year, I think you really have to look at what they do outside of the cage as well. And Lauren Murphy's a really good example of a fighter who they did the fight game the proper way for most of their career. They didn't talk a lot of crap. They didn't go out of their way to really disrespect their opponent. And then this year, it just seems like Lauren Murphy's had a massive chip on her shoulder. She's done just doing the UFC favors, and she's going out there putting on extremely impressive performances, calling her shots too afterwards. You really got to love that. And with Mackenzie Dern, the improvements that she's been able to show from fight to fight, because I know we've been pretty harsh on her and the prediction shows about how terrible her striking looks, pretty much fight in and fight out. But in her last fight against Souza, she looked phenomenal, or Jenny Hoban, my bad. She looked phenomenal, and she was great on the ground too. So a lot of really good picks this year. And Carla Esparza, last but not least, for her to go from being destroyed by Ioana Jędrzejczyk, kind of having that journeywoman-esque career, if you will, and then finally able to get a nice string of wins together, it's nice to see Carla Esparza get her name back in the top tier of the women's divisions.
John Franklin, your take on this list? I mean, again, there's a lot of honorable mentions that we could have out there. Bo Meng, definitely deserving of that. Ayaka Hamasaki, will she play into Female Fighter of the Year or our next category that will be coming up? Who knows with the Rise in 26 event coming up. But John, I'll let you give this award away if you'd like to. There's one fighter that I think is definitely deserving of this award, and it might catch a lot of people by surprise.
I agree. I'm going to go ahead and give the award away. First, what more can be said than what Matt said about all these fighters? The Esparza thing especially for me stands out because, when you have I stumbled across an interview I did once with Michael Bisping, and we talked about when he got knocked out by Dan Harrison. And I'm like, that's the kind of thing that puts you away for good as a fighter. You just are never the same. Esparza had that same kind of thing with Ioana Jędrzejczyk. And then to come back, and you want to think that maybe she rebuilt her career. The only problem with Carla Esparza, and why you probably don't give her the nod here, is just too many split decisions. You just fight right to the level of your competition, and then 3 people say, okay, maybe she won, maybe she didn't. So this year, for Fight Night picks, 2020, we're going for Female Fight of the Year. Lucky Lauren Murphy.
Lauren Murphy, congratulations. And I mean, really, what a year it was. If you have a look at her overall record, I mean, like I said, she had the win in 2019 against Mara Romero Barella, no longer with the UFC. Kicking it off, getting a big win over Andrea Lee earlier on in the year back in February. Beats Roxanne Modafferi. Who beats Roxanne Modafferi these days? I mean, she's such an elite gatekeeper, if you will, in this flyweight division. And then you look at the win that she had over Lilia Shakarova. And Matt, I know you and I really pumped Lilia Shakarova's tires.
Don't drag me into it.
Really focused on her wrestling credentials.
Nope.
She had been a national champion wrestler. She'd been training with a lot of the top fighters around her region. And again, we talk about hot knife through butter. I mean, Lauren Murphy made it look absolutely easy. So again, the female fighter of the year, lucky Lauren Murphy, congratulations. And fellas, let's move on to our next category, male champ of the year.